This video is for adults only. Viewer discretion is advised. Everything I'm sharing is my opinion.
This is Reporter Room with Jessica Della Davies.
If you haven't subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It's free and it helps me out a lot. Breaking news in the Celeste Rivas case. Breaking news. We have now found out why no arrests have been made in the David and Celeste case. Come on in, come on in. We have breaking news in the Celeste Rivas case. Indictments are coming. Indictments are coming. So we learned today, come on in and tell me where you're from. We learned today that a Los Angeles County grand jury has been impaneled in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. This explains also why the ME had basically a gag order put on it, and why the LAPD was so quick to come out and correct TMZ. And we're going to talk more about the discrepancy between the LAPD and TMZ and what's behind that in just a second. But I want to do the breaking news first. So come on in. I just want to give a second for a couple people to get in here so I don't have to repeat all of this. So the Los Angeles grand jury has been impaneled and indictments are coming. They are hearing evidence now related to what happened to Celeste, who was discovered inside the trunk of D4VD, also known as David Anthony Burke's Tesla, his 2023 black Tesla, earlier this year. This is according to two law enforcement sources told the Times. We have two law enforcement officers, and we also have other sources. So the other sources on this, we're going to talk about in just a second. But the LA County grand jury has been impaneled to hear the case and to return indictments in the D4VD case. Now, the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office has begun presenting. So he obviously signed off on whatever he has and decided to take it to a grand jury rather than a preliminary hearing, which would have been public. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office has begun presenting evidence to what's known as an investigative grand jury, according to one of the sources who spoke on the condition of anonymity to the LA Times, because they were not authorized to discuss the case with the media. But here we are. We have lots of leaking going on. One of the sources said that the grand jury had been in session for several days in mid-November. So this has been going on for a couple of weeks. So this explains why no arrests have been made. But it's not clear whether the prosecution have finished presenting their evidence to the grand jury or if it's still continuing. We know this is a very complicated case, so it's very likely that this might take more than a couple of weeks. This may take 3 weeks to get all of the information in front of a grand jury. Now, prosecutors are able to convene an investigative grand jury. They are able to subpoena witnesses, and they're able to compel other evidence, including videos. Now, at a grand jury, the defense doesn't get to present their case, but the prosecution is responsible for presenting any exculpatory evidence that might prove that David is innocent. Now, David is innocent until proven guilty, and so I just want to put that out there. So such investigative panels can recommend charges. They cannot themselves return an indictment, but they can recommend charges to the district attorney, who will then return indictments. So all of the confusion between the LAPD and TMZ, I think that it's good that we have multiple sources on this particular breaking news. So not only does LA Magazine have two sources that are confirming this inside the police, but they also found a court petition that was provided to them on Monday containing a grand jury number, a GJ number, referencing the existence of a grand jury. So I feel very comfortable bringing you this information in light of the fact that we have not only two sources inside police, but also this grand jury number. And so in that document, the LAPD detective Joshua Byers of the Robbery Homicide Division successfully persuaded a judge to stop the LA County medical examiner from divulging the ME results and other details related to what happened to Celeste that would otherwise be public. So now we know why they did this, and it looks like the reason that the um, detective Joshua Byers did not want this information to be public is because he knew there was a grand jury seated hearing this evidence. So, of course, he wouldn't want to have the grand jury tainted. And now we understand why the judge so quickly and easily signed off on this. Basically, it's a gag order on the ME's office. So it was Detective Byers who characterized the probe into what happened to Celeste as an investigation. He said, quote, it's an investigation into a murder. I'm watching my words here, according to the document. So who handled the grand jury for the state of California? Well, so they're representing the prosecution, Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, so this is why I'm confident that the DA will be bringing indictments after the grand jury comes back with their findings, who handles some of the county's most high-profile murder cases, has also called several witnesses to testify before the grand jury, according to one of the law enforcement sources. Remember, we have two sources and a document showing that a GJ jury has been impaneled that were provided to the Times. Now, according to Beth Silverman, this is the assistant DA, she did not immediately respond for request for comment today. Of course, she is concerned that she does not want to have this out there in the public realm for everyone to hear. If you're just joining me, we have breaking news in the D4VD case. A grand jury has been impaneled, and this has been confirmed by two LAPD sources, as well as a document provided to the Times that says GJ jury, which is for grand jury. So indictments are imminent, in my opinion. I don't know if the grand jury is still continuing, if they've recessed for the Thanksgiving holiday, or if they're done and indictments will be coming next. But I am confident that the indictments are coming. So the district attorney's office said in its statement that it could not, quote, disclose any information about grand jury proceedings. So it sounds like they had enough probable cause to take it to a grand jury, and they chose to do that instead of a preliminary hearing, which would have been public, to get the indictment against D4VD, allegedly, in my opinion, and any other accomplices. Now, an LAPD spokesman referred the Times to a statement issued earlier this week, which did not address the existence of this grand jury, but it does say that they just simply weren't going to answer any questions when they were asked to comment on this. They just referred the Times back to a statement that they issued earlier this week, which we'll talk about in a second. But let's continue on with the breaking news. Excuse me. An attorney for the 20-year-old singer, David Anthony Burke, did not respond to a request for comment. Remember, he hired this high-profile criminal defense attorney who represented the former Prince Andrew. He's not known as Prince Andrew anymore. He's now Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor Mountbatten. So detectives have spent months investigating the circumstances around what happened to Celeste, as well as investigating her relationship. So this is the first time that we're hearing about this, her relationship with David. Now, David's black 2023 $100,000 Tesla was abandoned 1 week was abandoned 1 street over, not 1 week, 1 street over from the mansion in the Hollywood Hills on Bluebird Avenue. Now, it was sitting there for several weeks before this happened, before we got these indictments. So it was ultimately impounded. A tow yard worker at the impound lot noticed that there was a smell coming from the Tesla and called the police. Now, inside the trunk, we know that police found a black bag containing Celeste remains. She was not frozen, as was reported out by TMZ. We're going to talk more about that in a second. She weighed 100, she weighed, excuse me, 71 pounds, and her family said she weighed around 120 pounds. So she had obviously been in there. We did find out from the LAPD on the last update that I gave you day before yesterday that Celeste had been in the trunk at least 5 weeks. Or at least she had been done away with for 5 weeks. That was at least. So we know the timeline that they're going from is 5 weeks ago and earlier of when she was done away with. And I believe, as I shared with you in the update that I gave you guys yesterday morning, that I believe that she was done away with sometime in March, probably, or late February, early March, somewhere in there. But we'll find out. And the reason I believe this is because he purchased the red Tesla in February, and the Doheny, the second property, went back up on the market on March 7th. And I also did a timeline on David on that one too. So the let's get back to this grand jury. And then we're going to talk about the discrepancy between LAPD and TMZ and what I believe happened. So the LAPD Captain Scott Williams, who leads the robbery homicide division, said that Celeste had been done away with for at least several weeks. The captain, in the update I gave you yesterday, said that it had been 5 weeks, at least 5 weeks. So on Monday, he did clarify that Celeste was not frozen. So what happened? Why do we have this discrepancy between TMZ and the LAPD? Now this is my opinion. TMZ does pay for tips. So sometimes when you pay for tips, and I believe they have good sources inside the LAPD, but sometimes when you pay for tips, people are more likely to come forward with something that may not be 100% credible because they want to get paid. So this is what I think happened. I think TMZ did put this story out in good faith, but I think there was a discrepancy because of the report that they had trouble getting her Celeste fingerprints due to them being waterlogged, right? Remember, TMZ talked about the fingers being waterlogged. Now, so I think that someone, in my opinion, interpreted this either in the ME's office, the LAPD, or TMZ, that they were waterlogged because she had been frozen. However, they could have been waterlogged due to the fact that she used to weigh 120 pounds, according to her family, at the time that she was reported missing. And that she only weighed 71 pounds when they found her. So, obviously a lot had happened. And so I think that she may have been waterlogged due to other fluids, not necessarily because she was frozen. Because the LAPD Captain Scott Williams has been adamant that she was not frozen. Now, detectives determined, I am going to check in with Chet. I just want to get all of this information out there for you guys, because we have breaking news in the case. If you're just joining me, we have learned that a grand jury has been impaneled and that indictments are imminent. I'm going to briefly go through that. I'm going to continue on with updates of what I have and what we know so far. So my sourcing on this is the LA Times. The Los Angeles grand jury hearing is hearing and has been hearing, apparently, for the past couple of weeks, evidence related to what happened to Celeste. The district attorney's office had begun presenting evidence and as far as we know, is continuing to present evidence regarding an investigative grand jury. So one of the sources, so this was a source that spoke to the Times. They had two sources from inside the police department, and the third sourcing that they used, because most mainstream media uses three sources before they publish something. The third source was were provided a document that showed, it said GJ number, quote, GJ number. And that was in reference to the existence of a grand jury. So that is my sourcing on this. So now the LA County DA's office has begun presenting evidence to what's known as an investigative grand jury. So this is a way to get an indictment. So one of the sources said that the grand jury was in session for several days in mid-November, but we don't know if this is still going on, and it's not clear whether prosecutors have finished presenting their evidence to the grand jury and already have an indictment coming, or if it's still ongoing. I would imagine with all of the people involved, and we have heard that there are informants, plural informants, in this case. So we're going to talk more about the informants in just a second. But all of the confusion between the LAPD and the TMZ, also, I just think that probably this is related to uh, the waterlogged. I think, somebody either wanted to get paid for the tip and misunderstood what they were reading or looking at or heard and provided it that way to TMZ. Or it was discussed that maybe she had been frozen and then dismissed, but whoever provided this information simply did not know this. I don't think that TMZ intentionally misled everyone, and they are standing by their reporting that she was frozen. But the LAPD captain, Scott Williams, has been adamant that she was not frozen. So I'm going to go with the LAPD captain's statement on this because, I think that the most credible sourcing is going to come from the district attorney's office and the LAPD. Now, detectives determined that the Tesla had been parked along Bluebird Avenue since late July. Captain Scott Williams believes that she had been done away with it for at least 5 weeks prior to being found. One day after what would have been her 15th birthday. She was only 14 years old when she was placed in that trunk, and they found her on September 8th. Celeste's birthday was September 7th. Now, David has never said a single word of condolence to Celeste's family or about Celeste, even when it was reported that a girl was found in his trunk with a Shhh tattoo. David chose to say absolutely nothing. And sometimes I think what somebody doesn't say is as interesting as what they do say. And because he has a matching tattoo, he would have known who was in the trunk of his Tesla. And it makes him denying this now, in my opinion, even more difficult. So long before she was found in the trunk of the car, Celeste had run away from her Lake Elsinore home. She was only in 7th grade at the time, you guys, and her family reported her missing at least 3 times in 2024, according to the Riverside County Sheriff's Office. And during this time, Celeste, according to neighbors, they saw her with Celeste at the mansion. The neighbor said that she was, quote, always with David. She appeared alongside him in live streams and also in photographs. And law enforcement sources say that they believe she did reside in the mansion at times with David. Now, we also know that there may have been a second crime scene on Doheny. So detectives have been working for weeks, and it sounds like the DA's office has also been working for weeks. Let me grab a sip of water. Thank you. Detectives have been working for weeks to trace the final movements of Celeste and to determine any connections with David. So is the grand jury also considering Celeste's connections with David and the fact that I believe he enticed her away from her family, lured her for nefarious purposes? And yes, this is being presented to the grand jury along with the fact that she was found in his trunk and a lot of other information. Apparently there are informants, plural, and witnesses, plural. So put a pin in that. We're going to come back to that in just a second. So as part of their investigation, detectives searched the Hollywood Hills home where David lived. That's the mansion. They removed electronic devices and other items from the residence. And this was rented under David's manager, Josh Marshall's name, and the owner of the mansion apparently didn't even know that David was living there. Now, on Tuesday, the LAPD, so that was yesterday, said it had some evidence that this was last Tuesday, had some evidence that David, not yesterday, my bad, went to Santa Barbara in the spring. And the reason for this trip, we don't know. We don't know. It's reportedly still under investigation, but the fact that the DA has gone to a grand jury may mean that they know why David went to Santa Barbara. And I told you guys my theory on this. So David first appeared last year. Celeste first disappeared last year in 2024 on Valentine's Day. Her mother made emotional pleas on Facebook asking for people to help find Celeste. And investigators believe that more than one person was involved in handling Celeste in the months before she was found in the Tesla. So handling her, what was left of Celeste. Remember, she was found in pieces wrapped in plastic in the front trunk of David's Tesla. So they believe that there's more than one person, that David, you know, allegedly may have had an accomplice or accomplices. But so far, we've only heard about one accomplice. Now, the LAPD Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton, now he serves as the department chief of detectives, said this week, quote, accountability is coming, end quote. Accountability is coming. So for the people who have said that nothing is happening, it's all corrupt, I'm not buying that. The fact that we have a grand jury in panel tells me that there is breaking news in this case, and that accountability is coming, and that justice will be served for Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Please say her name. If you believe the LAPD, that statement, that accountability is coming, put a 1 in the chat. If you don't believe the LAPD, put a 2 in the chat. So it says that our detectives have been working. They're going to get justice for Celeste Rivas. This is what Hamilton said. And Hamilton, again, is the LAPD deputy chief. His name is Alan Hamilton. He said, no one is off the table, including David, end quote. Let that sink in. This is coming from the deputy police chief of the LAPD, Alan Hamilton. Hamilton, excuse me. He says no one is off the table, including D4VD or David Anthony Burke. Now, LAPD Deputy Chief Hamilton said, contrary to some reports, that investigators have not sought David's cooperation. So I think that's interesting, because we've heard from one LAPD officer that David, he just declined to answer. And we took that to mean that he, wasn't cooperating. But David's PR machine, which, please give this a thumbs up, please subscribe. I have to get over David's PR machine. They mass report every single thing I try to put out. They've booted me from Reddit chat rooms. He's got a lot of money behind him. But I am going to continue to report on this case because I care about Celeste. But Deputy Chief Hamilton said that, contrary to some reports, that the investigators never did seek David's cooperation. So David's PR machine that's been telling us that he's been cooperating has just been straight up lying to us. You will also see them claiming that, this is all Celeste's family's fault, just nonsense. So on Monday, the Los Angeles County Medical's examiner, you will recall, revealed it had been barred from disclosing any details about what happened to Celeste by a court order. And now we understand why they were barred. They were barred because there's a grand jury impaneled. So of course they don't want that information out in the public realm, because then the defense team could come back and say that the grand jury was tainted. So the chief medical examiner, Dr. Ode Ukpo, seemed to question the wisdom of his department's findings. Quote, the practice of security holds is virtually unheard of. This is from the chief medical examiner in other counties, and has not been proven to improve outcomes in the legal system. He said, quote, we are dedicated to serving our community with full transparency. However, the law precludes us from doing this while the court order remains in this case. Now, I'm going to just go out on a limb here and say that chief medical examiner probably wanted the findings to be released because of the fact that it was being reported that Celeste had been found frozen, and they wanted to straighten this out for everyone, including Celeste's loved ones. But we now know why this court order was put in place that precludes the ME's office from releasing this. It's because they have a grand jury impaneled. They don't want to taint their grand jury. So in a court declaration, LAPD Detective Byers wrote that making the findings of the ME public, quote, will reveal or tend to reveal the ongoing investigation and the integrity of the investigation, as well as the identity of witnesses, plural, you guys, witnesses and or informants, plural, you guys. So we have So we learned from this statement. So I'll read the statement, then I want to just go back and just like emphasize a couple of things. So LAPD Detective Byers said that making the medical findings public will, quote, reveal or tend to reveal the ongoing investigation and the integrity of the investigation, as well as the identity of witnesses and or informants who are cooperating with law enforcement. Boom, mic drop. We are now finding out that there are both witnesses, plural, and informants, plural, in the Celeste Rivas Hernandez case. So I think that this is really important too. That we now know that there are witnesses and informants who are cooperating and probably testifying before the grand jury. He said that disclosure could, quote, endanger the lives of witnesses and or compromise the investigation, end quote. So this is the first time that we learned, and I reported this out yesterday morning, that there were witnesses, plural, witnesses who were cooperating with the LAPD. This is also the first time that we've heard that there were informants, plural informants, cooperating with the LAPD. So are they testifying before the grand jury? We don't know yet. I would suspect so. So Los Angeles County Superior Court Judge Craig Richmond is the judge that agreed and granted the LAPD's request that the ME findings be sealed pending another court decision. And now we know why. Now we know why. It's because there was a grand jury impaneled, and the last thing the DAs wanted was to have this ME report come into the public realm, and and have their grand jury indictments thrown out. So what happened with TMZ and their reporting with Celeste being frozen? Well, when I listened to Harvey and Charles is the executive producer at TMZ, talking about the waterlogged fingers and the fact that they could not get her fingerprints. I'm talking about Celeste here. I think someone interpreted this as being frozen. And I think that they shared this with TMZ, that she had been frozen. But we point blank have the LAPD, who we now know the DA's office has a grand jury impaneled, telling us she was not frozen. So I think that's important. I'm going to go with what the LAPD is stating, even though TMZ has not retracted their statements. I believe that TMZ had sources that told them this. I just, journalists do try hard to bring credibly sourced information. I'm a journalist and I always try to bring credibly sourced information. But I think the problem is that TMZ is known to pay their sources. And when you pay for information, sometimes you're going to get somebody that may want to, may want their money, may want their coin, and may come forward with information that's not 100% solid. But this type of payment is unusual. Most journalists and most news outlets will not and do not pay their sources for information, because this is the problem that can come up when you pay people. They may be more inclined to bring you something that's not 100% credible to get the payment. So I don't think TMZ broke this news about her being frozen in an effort to mislead us. I think that probably this is what their source told them. And either the source looked at the waterlogged fingernails and was not as close to the investigation, and maybe was somebody in the periphery of the investigation, and interpreted this to mean that she was frozen and didn't consider the fact that Celeste was reported missing at 120 pounds and was found at 71 pounds, and that there may have been other fluids involved here. And I am watching my words. So maybe there was a discussion at the ME's office too, that maybe she could have been frozen or not frozen. But she wasn't. That's what the LAPD is telling us. So they are point blank saying that she was not frozen. And I think the medical examiner's office was upset about this court order because they wanted to clear up all of the misinformation going around about her being frozen. And probably they wanted to honor Celeste and be respectful of Celeste and be respectful of Celeste's loved ones. But the LAPD and the DA's office, their primary responsibility is to protect this case and ultimately to protect the public. They have a public to protect. And if you leave somebody out there that does things like what happened to Celeste. I'm watching my words here. The recidivism rate for SA crimes is extremely high. These guys are more likely to offend than not. So they need to be able to indict the perpetrator, convict the perpetrator. What do you guys think about all of this new information? Are you watching closely? And Tanya's asking, please, thank you for modding today, Tanya. Please like and subscribe. And Jazz, thank you for modding today. And thank you, Mike, for modding today. Okay, I do want to check in with chat a little bit. I'm going to just go over the breaking news one more time because I know we have people coming in. We're going to go through that, but I want to go over chat. So I did do the poll. Yeah, I'm really happy too, Ava. I am so happy. Arrests are coming, you guys. Justice is coming for Celeste. We have one. Lots of ones. Okay, so it sounds like you guys believe the LAPD. Patty does not. Caddy doesn't. Little bit of a mixed bag. A lot of ones, a few twos also. Thank you for modding today, Tanya. Kat's here said they left evidence in the house, electronics. Well, the source we have on that is SF Investigate. So, let's just see. So she was not found frozen. I'm just watching my own. I haven't updated my images yet. I'm going to update those this afternoon. Now I can't find Neo the Asian's real name. How come? Well, I don't know. But we don't know for anything about Neo except that he was David's personal assistant and friend. Other than that, we don't know. A lot of people think he was involved. I want to thank Tina for being a channel member for the Reporter Room family. Thank you for being part of the Reporter Room family. Wow, for a month. Welcome, Tina. Let me go through a couple of these too. I want to thank Enjaz for jumping on this live stream today. She's our head mod along with Michael L. Cole. Thank you so much for the... You say thank you to Enjaz. Thank you to Michael L. Cole for the $1.99 super sticker. That is so nice of you. I will be putting that toward the channel. I want to thank Enjaz for gifting 5 Reporter Room memberships. That is so kind of you. If you got a Reporter Room membership from Enjaz, please make sure you say thank you. We're going to go through the breaking news one more time in just a second. Thank you for the 5 gifted Reporter Room memberships. Thank you to Moose151 for the $1.99 super sticker. That is so kind of you. Thank you very, very much. I'll be putting that toward the computer. For those of you that have been with the channel, you know I had to get a new computer, and that one died, and so I replaced it. So, thank you to Anna for the £3. I think it's pounds, €3. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Anna. That is so kind of you. Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to check in with chat here. And this is our other head mod, Michael, and this is our head mod, Enjaz. If you're modding today, drop me a comment. Shelly says, the trial will be one heck of a trial if it goes to trial and there's a lot to be public. Oh yeah, indictments are coming. I mean, I hope this helps everybody rest easier and just know that we do have indictments coming. This is the whole thing with journalists. So I just want to, because I am a journalist, for those of you that don't know, this channel is named Reporter Room because I am a journalist. Listen, we do our best to bring you guys credibly sourced information, but we are not soothsayers. We can only go by what people tell us, and then we have to make the determination of whether we're going to share this information or not share this information. So this is what I think happened with TMZ. I think they did bring the information, and I'm not going to be a TMZ apologist here, but I do believe that they had egg on their face yesterday. Charles and Harvey looked really stressed out when they posted their video yesterday. I think that they did mess up, and that's what happens when you pay when you pay to play. When you pay people to give you information, you're not always going to get the most credible information, in my opinion. And so and the same thing with SF Investigates. I just want to say that, as great as I think Steve Fisher is, and he has brought us a lot of information, I just do want to say that, he's not this, it's not the same sourcing as when you get it from the DA's office or you get it from the LAPD. He is a private investigator. He's brought us a lot of great information, but as I've always shared with you, he does have a dog in this hunt. Who hired him? The owner of the mansion. It behooves the owner of the mansion to have Celeste not have been done away with inside the house, because obviously that affects the property values of the mansion, and the owner is actively trying to re-rent the mansion. So I love Steve Fisher's information that he shared with us on this. It's been one of the few sources that we have gotten a lot of information, but I'm going to believe the LAPDs over anybody else, including TMZ and Steve Fisher at this point, because we have a grand jury impaneled. We have the district attorney involved. We have the assistant district attorney presenting this to the grand jury. They are officers of the court. And so they, are not going to come out and lie to us about this. So David said, TMZ doesn't know what's happening right now. It does seem like they're a little bit outside the loop. And PhD Gold V says, I said this in yesterday, the obfuscation is to taint jury pools. Well, you called it. Nick Dog Philly says, anybody else that's a suspect would have been brought in for questioning by now. I don't believe the LAPD. Well, listen, they don't need to bring him in for questioning. They've impaneled a grand jury to indict him. They don't care what he says at this point. We don't know if he, could have, I'm sure he could have gone in and explained himself. He chose not to. It was his choice. He's, innocent until proved guilty, and he has the right to not incriminate himself. But the fact that there's a grand jury indictment, a grand jury impaneled, means that indictments are coming, you guys. Indictments are coming. So for those of you that are just joining me, I'm just going to quickly recap this, and then I'm going to check back in with chat. A Los Angeles County grand jury is hearing evidence related to how Celeste came to be stuffed inside the trunk of David's 2023 black Tesla in September of this year, according to two law enforcement sources who told this to the LA Times. And I've always told you I love local journalists the most because they do tend to have good sourcing in this. Now, the LA District Attorney's Office has begun presenting evidence to what's known as a, quote, investigative grand jury. So this is according to one of the sources who spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the case with the media. And I'm sure the DA's office is not happy that this is leaking out. But one of the sources said that the grand jury had been in session for several days in mid-November. So we're at November 26th at the time that I'm recording this. So mid-November, the grand jury was in session for several days, but it was unclear whether prosecutors had finished presenting all of their evidence. So it may still be ongoing. It could be completed and indictments already coming. But I do think you guys can rest easy that, indictments are coming. Now, the evidence that was presented was not only the evidence about how Celeste was done away with, I'm watching my words here, but also the way that David enticed Celeste. That was also all of the information about David and his inappropriate and illegal relationship with Celeste was also, according to this source, presented to the grand jury. Now, prosecutors are able to convene what's called an investigative grand jury to subpoena witnesses, plural witnesses, and compel other evidence, including videos. And we learned from the LAPD that witnesses and informants have been cooperating with the LAPD, which may be why they don't need David. And they're impaneling this grand jury to get an indictment so they can arrest the person that's responsible for doing away with Celeste. In my opinion, it is David. And we also know that there is an accomplice. So such investigative grand jury panels can recommend charges. Now, they themselves cannot return an indictment. They will return a recommendation. So they will return a recommendation, and then it is up to the DA's office to indict. Now, all of the confusion, we already talked about this between LAPD, so I'm not going to rehash that. If you're just joining me, just back up the chat. But let's talk about who's handling this grand jury for the state of California. It's Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, who handles some of the county's most high-profile murder cases. So this is her wheelhouse, and she has called several witnesses before the grand jury, according to one of the law enforcement sources. According to according to the Times, Attorney Beth Silverman did not immediately respond to a request for comment today. And the DA's office said in its statement, it could not, quote, disclose any information about grand jury proceedings. So they didn't deny it and they didn't confirm it. But the LAPD spokesperson did refer the Times to a statement issued earlier this week, which they just said, in other words, go back and read the statement we already gave you. No comment. This is just a nicer way of saying no comment. So detectives have spent months investigating circumstances around what happened to Celeste, as well as the illegal and inappropriate relationship, in my opinion, with David Anthony Black. So I do think that this hopefully will give you guys some peace of mind going into the Thanksgiving break. The LAPD has been silent because they have a case to protect. They have the public to protect. The DA's office is being silent because they have to protect this grand jury indictment. They cannot have the grand jury indictment tainted, because they need to be able to build their case and present it to the grand jury, which apparently they've already done, so that they can indict the perpetrator and convict the perpetrator. What do you guys think? Are you watching closely? So let's see where you guys are at. Coley said, yeah, it's crazy. He should be charged with obstruction and jury tampering. Let me come down. So I mean, I hope this helps everybody to rest a little bit easier going into the thing. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. For those of you that are in the United States, jury tampering is a crime. Yeah, exactly. Kat Sears said, getting information from the people is like the Wild West. You never know what's true. That is so true. Getting it from official sources is fraught with corruption and ulterior motives too. Well, I'm not going to disagree. I understand why some people feel this way. However, the district attorney, the fact that this is going before a grand jury should give people some peace of mind that the LAPD was indeed investigating this case all along. We have to believe and trust somebody in this process, and I'm going to trust the ME's office. I'm going to trust that the LAPD have been investigating this case, evidenced by the fact that it's being presented to a grand jury. And I'm going to trust that the DA's office is planning to indict on this case based on the fact that this has gone to a grand jury. Mood says, yeah, that's because he's guilty. And Jazz is asking to please hit the thumbs up. It really does help the channel. It does. It lets YouTube know, and in subscribing and dropping me a comment, all of this helps me overcome David's PR machine. They have managed to get me kicked out of almost every single Reddit group by just mass reporting me when I would post a video with credibly sourced information that did not impugn a Celeste family while these poor people are trying to bury their child. And his PR machine is spreading malicious gossip about them without any evidence. It's just really hard to overcome a PR machine when somebody has this kind of money. And I just can't do it by myself. I believe my video yesterday was possibly deboosted as well. It had a really good click-through rate, but multiple people said they never saw it. They never even knew I had posted a video with the update on this. And Michael saying all civilly expressed opinions are welcome. Thank you. So if you didn't see my update yesterday, you will want to do it. Is he being indicted? Well, the DA's office is declining to comment. I believe he is. Indictments are coming, and I believe arrests will follow. Grand jury, with all of the evidence that you guys have seen, with all of the evidence let's do a poll on this. With all of the evidence that you guys have seen, if you were the grand jury, and we haven't seen it all, right? We haven't seen it all. We have not seen it all. NJAS has had to, and you guys have had to send me information from some of the Reddit groups because I'm not allowed to go in there because I was reported as a spammer, even though I'm a journalist. I was verified as a journalist on Twitter before you could buy blue check marks. Now you can buy them, I think, for $8 or $9. But at the time that I got verified, and you can hover over my blue verified check mark, you can clearly see I was verified long before Twitter was ever sold to Elon Musk and long before you could buy a blue check mark. I actually earned mine. So I am a credentialed journalist. But I chose to do my own YouTube channel because, yeah, I agree with you guys. It's, it just, everything was getting so politicized. I just was like, I just wanted to be able to create content without the drama. Marie says, I love your morals and ethics as an investigator. Keep going. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who's been sending me stuff out of these Reddit groups, because without you guys, I wouldn't have that information, because I've been banned from the groups by mods who, after getting mass reported by D4VD's enablers and his PR machine, I was reported as spam. And so I had to, I don't even know if these mods are actual people or if they're just AI. Tech says, I really enjoy your show. No hype, no sports talk. You just get the fact. Thank you so much. You did see the video yesterday. Thank you for letting me know. LaDonna said, that is horrible. They do that. That is so horrible. Well, that's the reality that we live in. If you're trying to report out facts, they do, they harass you. But it's really sad, because as a journalist, I would really like to be able to get into the Reddit groups, because I know from what you guys are sending me, and my mods and some of you guys have been kind enough to send me stuff. LaDonna said, when he's indicted, we will hear a lot more information then. Oh yeah. Right now, everything's being, so for those of you, let me just talk about how a grand jury works. Let's talk about that. So for those of you, that are like wondering if indictments coming, yes, they're coming. They are coming. But yeah, they're protecting this. Okay, so an investigative grand jury is a group of citizens that functions as an independent body to investigate potential criminal wrongdoing or civil wrongdoing within a county. Now, in criminal cases, and this is a criminal case, the grand jury will determine if there is probable cause to indict someone for crimes, while in civil matters, it investigates the conduct of local government, public officials, and public agencies. The grand jury's proceedings are secret. They can issue subpoenas. They can inspect public records. They can view videos. They can publish reports. So how does an indictment work? A grand jury hears evidence presented by the prosecutor to decide if there's enough probable cause to formally charge or indict someone with a crime. So the prosecutor is the only one presenting the evidence. So this isn't determining whether David is guilty or innocent. What this is, this is why I'm confident indictments are coming. All the prosecution has to prove. And if you think there's enough, and you haven't seen everything, if you were sitting on the grand jury, if you were impaneled as a member of the grand jury, would you indict David based on the information, just the information that you have? Yes or no? Let's see what you guys say. So this is a little bit more about the grand jury while you guys do the poll. The proceedings are secret to protect potential defendants, but it also encourages witnesses. And remember, some of these witnesses have said that they were afraid. I shared this yesterday. They were afraid, but it encourages witnesses to testify freely and prevent tampering. with the witnesses. And so a grand jury has the power to subpoena witnesses. It has the power to subpoena documents to help in its investigation. So if there is not enough evidence, if there is enough evidence, the grand jury issues an indictment. If not, it will return a no bill, which simply dismisses those charges. So this is why I think the DA is looking for an indictment at this point, which is why he put it to the grand jury. So a criminal grand jury is focusing on determining if a crime has been committed. So that is all they have to determine. Did David commit a crime? Yes or no? So let's see what you guys, if you were on the grand jury, what would just that jive turkey is cooked. Bougie said, what about the tainting the jury pool and the possibility of angle of pushing for plausible deniability? Could that be why so much information is pushed out? I don't know. That's a great question. Thank you, PhD. Kat Sear says, I heard that there are like vacation photos. I don't know. That was hyper. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of look at the pictures I'm showing. There's plenty of pictures of Celeste with David. Neighbors reported seeing Celeste with David. The neighbor said that she was always with David. And this is just what we know about, you guys. There's more information that we don't know about. I agree with you. Hey, Veronica. Veronica said, I bet they reported and have kicked out anyone with credible information. YouTube does that. Also, some of these creators do. It's been really hard. I have to say, this is probably the most difficult time I've had, with the exception of maybe the Brian Kohlberger case was difficult too. I had trouble overcoming all of the incels and the Brian Kohlberger supporters. Well cooked. Yeah. Cassier says, yeah, because corruption. It's the main issue in our world. Why else would these sites be allowed to act this way? So Chris Ann says yes. Kaloa says yes. And I want to make it clear, I'm not blaming YouTube in any way, shape, or form. YouTube is a really great platform. I'm proud to be part of it. I'm just saying that, YouTube doesn't know, they don't know why somebody is reporting something. They investigate it. They will look at the video themselves. And YouTube does know me. I've been on the platform for a couple of years, but I still have to overcome this PR machine on every other platform. If you guys are in any of the D4VD groups, and you want to try posting one of these videos, please do. I have not been able to share any of my credibly sourced information with the groups. The Rose Gold Pink Show says yes. Marie says yes. Ava says yes. Michael says his music, his videos all point to him. Moody says definitely. Enja says yes. Michael says yes. Kat Sear says, I would indict him and keep digging to get the full truth no matter how high it goes. Yeah, me too. I am right there with you. I agree with you, Kat Sear. And I think we should, you guys have done an amazing job. I just want to say, people always complain. Kathy says yes too. LaDonna says she would indict him. Maria says, no, too many variables. Too many people had access to the vehicle in that house. Ava said, I'm afraid too. I don't even know them. Yeah. This is not the scariest case I've ever reported on. The scariest one was probably the Alex Murdaugh case, because that was also a lot of corruption in that case that went high. And Michael's asking, please like, share, and subscribe. That just lets the YouTube algorithm know that I'm doing a good job. Oh, Cassier said, I bet Burke, the lawyer, and for Harvey. And Harvey. Okay, thank you. LaDonna said they will deny him bond. I think so too. Just based on the Brian Kohlberger case, he was not allowed to have bond. I agree. I agree with you, LaDonna. I think so. He's got money. He's rich. He has a fancy lawyer. So he's definitely, I think, if it had been, thank you, kicking it with the Rooks. I think that if he, and Shelley says yes too. Thank you, Michael. That really means a lot. Thank you so much. LaDonna says, I have so many questions. All right. Well, please feel free to ask them. I will do my best to answer whatever I can answer. Tara says she's not sure. LaDonna said that's why I asked her, Michael, because she knows the truth. Jessica does. She's amazing. Thank you, LaDonna. I'll share with you what I know. And if you would like to become a channel member, that is the link for that. But subscribing is free, and that helps me out a lot too. So let's talk about a little bit more about what we know so far. Let me just pull this up really quick. So yeah, the video I put out yesterday, it was really weird. Usually when I put a video out and it has a double-digit click-through rate and good engagement, it gets pushed out, and this one didn't. So again, I think I am trying to work against a PR machine. So I do think that, the information that I shared with you guys yesterday was really credibly sourced. Let me just go over a couple of things. We did learn that there was a second suspect. So I believe that there is an accomplice in this. I think this is an important breakthrough. We learned that, let me just pull it up. Hold on one second. Let me grab it. The other thing I'm looking for, I'm sorry, I'm multitasking, but I'm just looking to see if there's any other breaking news in this case, because of course, you guys know I like to have all of the information. Okay, here's the New York Post. Here's another. So it's now starting to come out. If you guys want the latest in the breaking news, you are in the right place. I do keep an eye on everything. And if you haven't hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, please turn that on, because I think arrests are coming and I will be sharing them with you. So let me add this into the chat, into the stage. Okay. Hang on. There it goes. Okay. We got it. Okay. So this is the New York Post. It says grand jury hears evidence about, so let's see if there's any new information about Celeste found in David's trunk. The Los Angeles grand jury will probe what happened to Celeste. I'm watching my words here. Somebody's getting a nice big ad on this. I'm scared if I click it, I'm going to open the ad. So, okay. So the revelation suggests that police could be tightening the net around the suspect or suspects, plural, in the shocking case. The cops have refrained from naming suspects or even calling this. That's not true. They actually have referred to this for the first time this week. They did refer to this as a homicide investigation. But county prosecutors have begun presenting evidence to an investigative grand jury, insider sources revealed to the Los Angeles Times. Well, I was on that. I jumped on that before right away. Okay, so we had that first. Let's see if there's anything new though. The grand jury began meeting earlier this month. One source said this type of grand jury can't hand down an indictment, but what they will do is they can make a recommendation to the DA's office. And the DA, and remember, it's the assistant district attorney who's trying this case before the grand jury. So the DA always is the one that indicts. The revelation is a major step forward in this horrific case. One detective internally described the case as an investigation into murder, according to court documents obtained by the Times, although the LA Police Department recently denied reports that Celeste had been the D word. Please don't put it in the chat. I'm frozen. Please don't put the D word in the chat. Meanwhile, the Los Angeles medical investigation has been hit with a court order blocking them from releasing any information about Celeste. And we know already, we've talked about, she was first reported missing. I'm just looking for new information. It says that the Celeste mother contacted TMZ when she heard about the discovery, and the tips helped cops to be able to identify her daughter. Probably if Celeste's mom had not reached out to TMZ, I don't know if they would have been able to identify Celeste. She said that her daughter Celeste had been dating someone named David and had a Shhh tattoo that matched the one that David has. David has hired a high-powered lawyer who represented Harvey Weinstein, and the artist was, I don't even want to call him that. The perpetrator was allegedly not cooperating with investigators and has yet to be interviewed by police, a law enforcement source previously told People. And this is his alter ego, Itami. This is another picture that they say is Celeste. I don't think it is Celeste. It doesn't look like Celeste to me. Let me know if you think this is Celeste. This is Celeste. I'm not sure this other girl is Celeste. It remains unclear how long Celeste had been passed before she was found, but the Emmy previously reported that she appeared to have been done away with, deceased inside the vehicle for an extended period of time before being found. Now, the LAPD, as I reported out to you yesterday, said that she had been at least 5 weeks. They believe 5 weeks. So, although putting her in the trunk is only a misdemeanor, which means that if prosecutors had not taken this to a grand jury, if the district attorney's office hadn't taken this to a grand jury, they might have just been stuck with that. Photos have swirled online allegedly showing Celeste. Well, I don't know if we could say allegedly. We've seen the photos. So that's the information from the New York Post. So those are the two outlets that are on this besides us. I kind of feel like we're alone. I know a lot of people are, it's Thanksgiving, so a lot of people are probably not all in on this. I want to welcome LaDonna to the Reporter Room family. Thank you so much for joining the Reporter Room family as a channel member. Welcome. So I had a video coming out today at 5. Obviously, I'm not going to worry about getting that out. Getting this out is more important. I'll probably move that one to tomorrow. But text says, even with high-powered attorneys, why can't they question him? Well, they can, but it doesn't sound like they needed to. This is my opinion. I don't think they needed to hear from David. I think there was enough evidence. I mean, you guys have just been so great. People always complain about internet sleuths, but you guys solved the cases. If you think about the Gabby Petito case, if it wouldn't have been for Red, White, and Bethune with their dash cam footage, we would have never known what happened to where Gabby was found. Grand Teton is a huge park, and without that, we wouldn't have known. The same thing in the Kylan Schulte Crystal Turner case. It was an online internet sleuth. Kylan's dad, Sean Paul Schulte, crowdsourced. He crowdsourced on Facebook, and Cindy offered to help, and she actually found Kylan and then called the police, and then they found Crystal just a little bit further away. You guys have solved a lot, brought a lot of information. Think about the Tesla key that was found by an internet sleuth. In this case, think about all of this video evidence that you guys had, linking David to Celeste. So with a high-powered attorney, why can't they question him? They can question him, but I don't know if they really need to. I mean, there was people living in the house with David. We know that we did hear reports that they said that they thought that she was, a university student. They didn't know she was just a teenager. So it sounds like people were talking, and now we're hearing that there are, quote, informants and quote, witnesses, plural informants, plural witnesses. So I think that they probably don't need any statement from David. What's he going to tell? What's he going to say? They'll probably try to lock him into a story, but if his, attorney says he's not going to talk, then, that's his right. He has a right not to incriminate himself. So, he may have been invited to come down for an interview and just refused it. We will find out after this grand jury is done. Bougie Cat said, yes, Celeste Herrera was 23 of Filipino ethnicity, looked alike. Yeah, and I think, but she claims she never met Celeste Rivas, which is another groupie stated is a lie. So Celeste Herrera has tried to distance herself. I think David brought her in intentionally as a ringer for Celeste, to try to distract, and just confuse people that, that, and you'll remember his PR machine really pushed her out, but she has since said she never dated David, and I suspect she's cooperating right now, which is why a lot of these people that people are suspicious of, because they're not talking. Maybe we don't need to be suspicious of them. Maybe they're not talking because they are cooperating. Maybe they are informing on David. Shelley said, I think I'm paying for a membership. Will you check to see if I'm a member? You are a member. I can see right now. You see the check mark next to your name? You are a member. So you're good. Michael says, check out the Facebook group. Yeah, we have a Facebook group called Reporter Room. If you want to be like up to date on stuff. I have been following this case. I will continue. Cassier said, you are also green, Shelley. Oh yeah, that's true. You're green. So green, you're green, and then you're red. And then you turn red, and then after the third month, you turn blue, and you get a blue check mark. And Jazz says, go to the perks and press change level, and it will tell you what level you are. Thanks, Jazz. Ralu says, my fear is that this case is going to end up in like PD's money, corruption, fame, and cult. But PDD is in jail, and it sounds like there's more charges coming. So I do think there is, when you have this kind of money, that, $20,000 a month in rent money, it is harder to prosecute. They can afford to hire fancier lawyers. Now, the money Diddy had is way more than what David has. David's a much newer artist and hasn't had the chance to accumulate the kind of resources that Diddy had. So I hope that helps. Tara says, you're green, Shelley, so you are a channel member. And Michael's saying there's 127 likes, but 256 in chat. Could you please give this a thumbs up, you guys? LaDonna said, am I a meme? Or I think I am too. You're a channel member. Oh, member. Yeah, you are. I can see that you are. If you see the little emblem or the check mark next to your name, that tells you that you are a channel member. And Michael's like, please press the like button. It does make a difference. All we need is an arrest. Yeah, that's what I was looking for today, Inga. I was looking every day. I look like 3 or 4 times a day to see if he's been arrested. Because of course I'm going live. I'll be posting another live. It'll be set for, a couple of days from now. But if there's an arrest tomorrow, I'll be going live tomorrow on this. Bougie said, every actress David hired for his music videos purposely looked like Celeste. He had Celeste Herrera, even Alicia Collins kind of looked like her. And there's like 2 other lookalikes that hung out as well. Yeah. And I think he picked the lookalikes to do his videos because, in my opinion, he was fantasizing about this for a long time, right? He was fantasizing and thinking about this. PhD Gold V says, Shelley, if you're green, you're a channel member. So LaDonna said, putting someone in a trunk is a misdemeanor. I know, right? Can you believe that? That needs to be changed. A red check mark means you've been a channel member for 2 months. And blue check mark means 3 months or longer. And a green check mark means you're a brand new channel member. Hey, kicking it. Michael said, a G-rated channel. Yeah, I try to keep it classy in case you have little ones in the room. Ralu says, hi, I'm sorry I didn't say from the beginning. I usually have my earbud in. Bougie says, it's a misdemeanor of up to 1 year imprisonment. Yeah. I mean, I think it should be a felony. But again, I don't think this would be, I think that the fact that it's a misdemeanor is like more for people who, I don't, you know what? I'm not even going to try to say who it's for. I don't think it should be a misdemeanor, period. End of story. I do not think it should be a misdemeanor. And Kaloa says, no need to question the guilty ghoul. No, I mean, he said enough. I played his videos during our last live stream about what he said about red string theory. He said that it was the soundtrack of his life. I believe him. Kat Sear said, I've heard he may have had, you're talking about I don't know who she is, but David may have had an accomplice. Law enforcement has said they believe that he had an accomplice. And Kaloa is saying that Herrera knew Celeste. I believe so too. But what she said was she never dated David. She said she never dated David. She wasn't his girlfriend, and she didn't know anything about Celeste. But for all we know, she could have been one. She could be one of the informants or one of the witnesses that's quietly cooperating with police. We don't know yet. Bougie says, I question if it was even the mom, probably Aunt Dora Hernandez. My understanding was Celeste's mom did put it up on Facebook, but I think her Aunt Dora did too. Tex says, glad to know if they have been getting info from other sources. Hope it's an airtight case on him. Yeah, I feel like it is. I mean, just from what we've seen, and we don't know everything. We've just seen little snippets and pieces that we've been able to put together on the. I mean, we've all been. I think this is probably the one case where, the exception of like David's PR machine and a couple of enablers, I think the vast majority, like 90% majority, all agree that David, needs to be held accountable. I do think we could. And normally you don't see that kind of an agreement on the internet. But in this case we do. Bougie says, that's not Celeste Rivas. That's a picture with David with Celeste. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Because I didn't think that was Celeste either. And Jazz is talking about our Facebook group. We talk about all kinds of crimes and we just hang out and talk too. Kobayashi says, I wonder if she started running away because of him or it happened. Okay. So here's my theory on this. So speculation alert. I believe that she was not running away from her family. I haven't seen any evidence of anything that her family, was unkind to her or did anything to her. Not one word about that. And I think if there was, David's PR machine would have absolutely pushed it out. I think she was running toward David. I think she loved David. I do not think David loved Celeste. And this is evidenced by the song where I played for you the interview that he did with Zhang, on the Zhang show. Josh, I think it's Josh Zhang show. The other day, where he's, the interviewer asked, why didn't you say I love you back? She says, I love you. You don't say it back. And he said, oh, I explained that in the next song. But I think he said it didn't say it back because he didn't love Celeste. I think it was the opposite. I think he was fantasizing about doing this to Celeste for a long time. The Romantic Homicide song came out in 2023. Some of the lyrics that I've shared with you that are really disturbing came out in 2023 and 2024. So I think he was thinking about this for a long time. Even his mom did not want this, his music. I mean, look at this lyric right here. Let me take this down for a second. Let me move myself down here. Hold on. Let me back this up. I mean, the lyrics are, and he's told us this was the soundtrack of his life. I believe you, David. In the back of my mind, I illed you with a K, and I didn't even regret it. I can't believe I said it, but it's true. I hate you. This is from Romantic Homicide. So he was thinking about this years before he did it, just like Brian Koberger. He was fantasizing about it. I'm urging caution I'm urging caution on this till we know who's cooperating and who isn't. So we don't know we do know that there are, quote, informants and, quote, there is one accomplice and there are, quote, multiple informants and multiple witnesses. Thank you, Shelley. Katsier says, agrees with you, Ralu. Zuz says, I hope he doesn't. Oh yeah, no, I don't. I hope not too. If that gives you any comfort on that, most people who are narcissistic sociopaths, now not all people who are narcissistic are sociopaths, but all sociopaths are narcissistic. And I believe that is the case, in my opinion, allegedly about David. He's innocent until proven guilty, but I believe he is sociopathic. The fact that he was fantasizing about this for a long time. We still don't know why he was taken out of school and homeschooled. And he talked about in the interview that that he gave with on the Josh Zhang show that that he, I hope I'm saying that name right. He talked about that, he didn't have contact with his friends. And I was like, well, what in the world would prevent him from having contact with your friends? If you were removed to go to homeschool, why couldn't you still talk to your friends? And it makes me wonder if his friends stopped talking to him and if there's a reason that we just don't know about. Bougie said groupies can protect him all they want. Yep, I agree. So I don't think he's going to do anything to himself. Exactly. P. Diddy didn't do anything. Most sociopaths don't do that. It's not impossible, but I don't think so. And remember, in his mind, David's mind, he's the victim. Everyone hiding in the bushes. And Jess says, oh my goodness, thank you for giving us a little laugh in what's been such a dark topic. Please press the thumbs up button. Ava said, I've been looking too. Thank you, Ava. You are so awesome. And if you want to email me, here's my email address. If you have tips or you're in one of the chat rooms that I'm banned from, let me pull this. This is my email address. It's tips, the number 4 Jessica at outlook.com. Tips, the number 4 Jessica at outlook.com. If you have anything you think I should see or something I should show on the channel, feel free to email me with any tips. Of course, any actual tips about that will help the investigator should be going to law enforcement, of course. Mick Dale, hey, thank you for the heart. Let's do purple hearts for Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Her family, this has to be the worst. Going through the holidays, the very first Thanksgiving, and knowing that she's no longer on this earth has got to be really, really hard on her loved ones. So please consider putting in purple hearts to honor Celeste Rivas Hernandez. She should be getting ready for Thanksgiving, and and helping her mom and dad get ready to celebrate the holidays, not in the ground. Veronica said they may have talked to David and his lawyer. We don't know. They may not be telling us everything. In fact, they're probably not. You know what, Veronica? You're right. This is I love Veronica emails me a lot of times with tips, which are so helpful and kind. And Veronica's right. We don't know if they talked to David and his lawyer, Blair Burke, who has this, almost the same last name as him, but they're not related. We don't know if they sat down or not. That's a great point. Mick Dale put in purple hearts and says justice for Celeste. Yeah, say her name, Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Michael is welcoming all the new members to the Reporter Room family. Shelly says, I like our educational info. Lots of laughs on the channel. Yeah, thank you. Kalua says, groupies will flip. The gravy train is over and they know it. Yeah, and they may already have done that. So people that are thinking that this person's suspicious or that person's suspicious because they're not saying anything, they may be under a gag order themselves. Remember, once a grand jury is impaneled, we know about the ME gag order only because the ME was upset about it. But these people could be under a gag order too and simply not able to say anything. But I agree. I think you're right. The gravy train is done. Bougie Cat says, didn't know she was a teenager. Is Cap. They were there. That's when the tattoo artist refused to tattoo her. Yeah, I remember hearing that too, because in California, you have to be 18 to get a tattoo. Great point, Bougie. So this is, I just want to show you this picture. This is a picture. Celeste was at this concert. But this, if you look at this picture and you look, this is his little sister. This is his manager, Rob M. But this is Josh Marshall. This is David right here in the middle. And then just over David's left shoulder, so it'll be on your right, but David's left, you can see Josh Marshall. And this was at the Fonda, which was a concert that David got up and he sang with his little sister. And Celeste was backstage. So Josh said, oh, I don't have any interaction. This is his manager. I don't have any action with David. But yet he said he had to help his 14-year-old daughter, that he brought her into this with his weird comment on TikTok, where he posted his denial. But he said he had to, comfort his 14-year-old daughter. If none of them really knew knew David and didn't know about Celeste, why would you have to comfort your daughter about Celeste if she didn't ever meet Celeste? So it makes me wonder if there's more to Josh Marshall than what we've been told, allegedly, in my opinion. I'm not saying he had anything to do with what happened to Celeste, but I am saying I think that is denial on TikTok, not even a proper denial, not ever sitting down to this day to talk about, how she disappeared or what happened, or just making a statement in public with any major news outlet. Sometimes, the fact that what somebody doesn't say is just as interesting. And I do think that his denial in a TikTok comment was weird and suspicious, in my opinion. I'm not saying he had anything to do with Celeste, but I'm dubious about his claim that he didn't really know about Celeste, especially in light of the email that SF Investigates showed us. So that's really sad. But there's enough pictures like this one out there with Celeste with David that it's just not deny. He's not going to deny. He's not going to be able to deny that he was with her. This one is also David with Celeste. You can see her clearly standing a little bit behind him. So I just think it's getting harder and harder for him to deny it, in my opinion. And this is Celeste in her hoodie. And this is Celeste, beautiful, precious Celeste, who is not here to enjoy the holidays. And this wig that I just showed you, that blue wig, let me see if I can find it really quick. This is the concert. Let me just show you this. Okay. I was going to address this, and with all the breaking news, I just didn't get to. Let's address this. Okay. So I want to talk about the concert, who was there, and wondering if David's family knew about Celeste, and who else in David's entourage. You guys have been shouting from the rooftops that you think that more people knew about Celeste than are letting on. So let's consider that theory. So David gave this concert. It's at the Ford Theater. You can see the name right there, Ford Theater, East LA. Okay, so he did this concert. His little sister sang on stage with him. I'm not showing the sister because, she's just a child. And then we had that picture. This is Celeste. And she was caught. Let me see if I can show this. Okay, so that's David's brother right there. You can see that's Celeste with her Hello Kitty shoes. That's David's brother. This is actual footage with David's brother at the Fonda Theater. Backstage, you can see her wearing the hoodie. That's David's brother. And then we have this picture. And there were multiple pictures. I was going to go through this in a separate live stream, but there's just been so much breaking news. I just didn't get to it yet. But let's go through it now. So there's this picture. Let me back it up. Let's just play it through. Of Josh Marshall with David at the Fonda Theater. And Josh Marshall is there, and there are other people of David's family. So Celeste was at the Fonda Theater. We see Celeste with David's brother. So did Celeste's family know? Did David's family know about Celeste? Did they know? And so what did they know? Did they know how old she was? Did she meet them, or did he keep her separate? Did his brother know? And what did his brother know, and when did he know it? It's hard to believe that his family wouldn't have known how old Celeste was, because in my opinion, she doesn't look like she's in college. And this is David, these pictures I'm showing right now are him fantasizing about doing this. And then his Hello Kitty girl. And I think he dressed himself in Hello Kitty in pink and little girl stuff because that's what he wanted to watch. But look at the caption on this. Me watching her scream after I poured. This is so disturbing. Boiling water after she told the boy happy birthday. So he had he was fantasizing about doing awful things to her for a long time, in my opinion. Allegedly, he's innocent until proven guilty. And if you sue me, please do. My attorney and I will depose you. We will absolutely use it as an opportunity to depose you. But in my opinion, Celeste did not look like she was in at the university. I think she did look like her age. She definitely acted like her age. And I just, wonder, what did his family know about his relationship and how long? So here's him singing at the Fonda Theater. He sang with his little sister on stage. This is the backstage live stream that she says that he AR'd kids, he essayed kids, and he told his mods to delete everything, delete the live stream. And that's clearly Celeste with him. There's Celeste with his brother at the Fonda Theater on June 27th. So there's a close-up that just proves that it was Celeste. So it just proves that it was Celeste. I just did a close-up on that. Ava says, I believe they had some type of ring going on, if you know what I mean. I wonder that too, if she was being passed around. I don't know. I don't know, because that's my alarm about the other one. Okay. LaDonna says, yes, he was fantasizing. If you think David was thinking about this for a long time, just based on his social media posts, just put he was. If you think that he wasn't and that this was a spur of the moment crime of passion, put he wasn't. He was. If you think that he was fantasizing about this for a long time, he wasn't. If you think this was a crime of passion, a spur of the moment thing. Kaloa says, well, his music and videos are his manifesto. So it does not take a rocket science to figure this out. Right. So if you guys have figured this out, I think we should have some faith in the grand jury. I think indictments are coming. The DA just needed to go through the formality about this. And just says his lyrics say an awful lot about him, in my opinion. Yeah. Laka Raravina says, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I think she was frozen initially after they did away with her, but she was not frozen when her body arrived at the ME, as it would have thawed out by then for people to start smelling decomp. That's a very good theory that fits everything. That fits everything. Very good theory. LaDonna says, you would think he went there to, bring her back, and that's why he went there, to bring her back. Yeah, I think he went and got her. I think that they decided, whoever the accomplice is, I don't know who it is, but I think they decided to drive to Santa Barbara County to get her, to use her. And I believe that she was used for something, potentially those t-shirts. A lot of you guys thought that he was using her, just a little bit of her. People said, oh no, if he used her, they would the pain. And this could just be, an internet rumor. So just speculation alert on that one. But a lot of you guys believe that is possible. And we know the LAPD said they were investigating it. Now, what they found, we do not know. But we did hear confirmation that they did at least investigate it. So the LAPD took your concerns seriously too. But you look at Celeste here, I don't think she looks like she's 19, in my opinion. She looks a little bit older there. And I think as she would have gotten older, David would have come to hate her more. But this blue wig is also, I literally think he's wearing her here. This is Celeste, younger, wearing the blue wig. And then we see David with his personal assistant and friend Neo wearing the exact same wig. So either they had matching wigs, or he literally is wearing her wig. And we see him with the Hello Kitty stuff on him too, which again, I think is weird. Bougie says, and that tattoo artist refused to tattoo her because he knew she was underage. So how did he know, but supposedly no one else did? Exactly. I think there was probably some people trying to save face. Leah says, is there any time for the state in which her Like we don't, well, this is the time that we know, Leah. We know that they told us, and I broke the story yesterday morning, that law enforcement did tell us that, um, they believe she had been passed away for at least 5 weeks. So maybe longer. Shelley says, I'm wondering about her family. Do we think that she and the family were getting paid? I do not. I think I have not found any credible sourcing on this. I think this was pushed out by David's PR machine. And Josh says, I also think that David was constantly immersed in a fantasy life. His head spent many hours playing computer games, firstly, and some of his lyrics are so telling, in my opinion. So let's just go through. I just want to go through the breaking news on this, just in case the people are coming in late. I know it's 5 o'clock. People are getting off work. So a Los Angeles County grand jury is hearing evidence related to what happened to Celeste, how she ended up being put into the trunk of David's 2023 black Tesla earlier this year. We don't know exactly when she went into the trunk. This is according to 2 law enforcement sources telling this to the Times. So the sources are not only 2 law enforcement sources, but the LA Times also had a document that shows that there is a grand jury impaneled. I'm going to there's a GJ number that this was provided to the magazine, referencing the existence of a grand jury. My sources on this are the New York Post and the LA Times. So the LA Times County District Attorney's Office has begun presenting evidence to what's known as an investigative grand jury, according to one of the sources who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss this case with the media. One of the sources said the grand jury was in session for several days in mid-November, but it was unclear whether prosecutors had completed their presentation of evidence. Prosecutors are able to convene an investigative grand jury to subpoena witnesses and compel other evidence, including videos. Such investigative panels may recommend charges, but they cannot return an indictment. The DA, however, can return an indictment. And who is presenting the evidence to the grand jury? Well, it's the assistant DA. So the Los Angeles source, not only do they have 2 sources that are confirming this, but they also found a court petition that was provided to them on Monday with a quote GJ, which is G for grand, J for jury, a GJ number referencing the existence of a grand jury. So I do think that this is really, really helpful. The Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman, who has handled some of this county's most high-profile murder cases, is handling this for the state of California. And she reportedly has called several witnesses, plural witnesses, before the grand jury, according to one of the law enforcement sources. Deputy District Attorney Beth Silverman did not immediately respond to a request from the Times for comment. The district attorney's office said in a statement that it could not, quote, disclose any information about grand jury proceedings. So that's not a denial either. So I think that also is helpful, because if there wasn't one, they could just simply deny it. So the fact that they declined to disclose it, I think, is like almost a 4th confirmation on this. So let me, we're going to do, I am going to check in on the poll, but before we get too far into this, I do want to say thank you to our channel members. Let me just say thank you so much to our executive producer, Njaz, who has just been such an incredible help during this whole case and such a great resource. Thank you to our amazing producers, Sasha Angel, George L. Brown, Michael L. Cole, Christy Ballantyne, and Randall Rand. And Michael L. Cole, along with Njaz, are our head mods on this case. And thank you to our channel members for supporting the channel. This case has been incredibly hard to cover, in the sense that we are having to overcome this, this guy, David, who has all this money. He has so much money, so much resources at his disposal, that it has been really hard to overcome some of the misinformation and disinformation. I think that the rumor that her family was getting money on behalf of her, I have not found any credible sourcing that backs this up. And I believe that this is being pushed out by his PR machine to dirty up her family, in my opinion, to keep people from having sympathy for her family. I also want to do super thanks and coffee gratitude. Thank you so much for that, you guys. I'll be updating this again before our live stream on Friday. So let's go back and see what our poll says. As you guys did a poll. If you're watching, come on up and talk to me. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you in the United States that are getting ready for Thanksgiving. I did do a poll. Let's see if you guys looking. I'm obviously very behind on chat. Hey, Tammy. Celeste was a beautiful, and Ava thinks it was unprofessional of the manager. Yeah, that TikTok post was. And I just think we need to keep our minds open for new information, you guys. I'm just trying to see. I did a poll. Let me get to the bottom and then back up. All right, let me back up. I'm backing up, chat. I agree with you, in my opinion, allegedly. Okay, I see one he was. Is that the only one I have? Is LaDonna the only one who did it? Who shared this? It's true if you used a lot of it. But what if, Marguerite, what if you just used a couple drops? What if you just used a couple of drops and you didn't use a lot of it to make your t-shirts? What if it was just a couple of drops in amongst a whole bucket of red paint? It wouldn't turn brown then. Hey, Master says, look at a picture of David wearing the blue wig with Neo. There are scratches and a black eye on David and a cut lip. Ooh. I had pictures of scratches of him performing, which I showed in another live stream, but I didn't. Let's see the blue wig photo if that comes up again. See if I can just click back to that really quick. It was somewhere in here. I'm just going to let it play through. And I believe that's Celeste with her Hello Kitty shoes on. If you guys see the blue wig photo, please tell me so I can stop this. Yeah, we will look at that. I'm just going to let it play through for a second. He was. Texas said, when you are a paid minion, you don't see a lot of things. Yeah, I think that, the problem is that there's probably a lot of people on the payroll. PF says, please don't use all caps. Please, please, please. It hurts me. And I'm already trying to overcome the algorithm. PF says, if they didn't use her, then they use the images of the red stuff, her struggling. Yeah, I think there's some reason that they went back to get her. LaDonna says she wouldn't have been frozen. The LAPD is saying that she was not frozen in the trunk. They're categorically saying that. So, and I don't know if she ever was. They haven't said that. But that could also be the confusion with between the LAPD and the TMZ. It could have been that at some point she was, or they thought maybe she was, but the LAPD is saying no. So I'm going to go with the LAPD because I think they're going to have the most information. Shelly said, yeah, the picture of Neo and David looking absolutely exhausted. Neo has big bags under his eyes, and it looks like they had been partying. And this is David at that concert with his family where his brother was backstage with Celeste, and Celeste was also seen backstage. This is David on a stream with Celeste where she says, he essayed and did it with kids. DMT said, at least they're actually treating this. Oh, yeah, they are. And they're calling it that now. They named it. There's Celeste's brother. There's Celeste backstage with the brother. That is definitely Celeste. I just wanted to show a close-up of that. I'm looking for the blue wig picture because I am going to look at for the bruises. I think it's coming up right after this. For those of you that are just watching, we're looking for the blue wig picture together because Somebody asked if there were bruises on David, so we're going to look. I can always enhance that. This is Celeste backstage at the Ford Theater, and I put and this is I enhanced this photo just to like show that it is her, and then somebody else juxtaposed this. I didn't do this part on the other side. That's why the other one looks a little grainy too. I was enhancing this one just to also show that it was Celeste, and for my own self to know that it was Celeste. And somebody else juxtaposed it with this picture that is known to be Celeste. And I do believe that Celeste was backstage at the Ford Theater. And we also have the video of her with David's brother that I just showed you. So yeah. And why was David surrounding himself with all these toys and kids? Who was he trying to attract? It's not hard to guess. So I'm just waiting for the blue wig photo. This is the picture of the crow when he talked the crow song that he posted on Celeste's birthday. I think that's when this was done. Wearing the Hello Kitty. This is him with Neo. A lot of people think Neo is the accomplice in this. This is also David with Neo. I don't know if this is them pretending to be in the Titanic. I don't know if Neo is an accomplice or not. He could have just been a personal assistant and friend to David. So I'm just urging caution. And Celeste was not frozen. She was not frozen according to the LAPD. And this is David, me singing to my Hello Kitty because they're the only ones who don't rush me to drop music. Because David's always the victim in his own mind. And this is backstage. So there's David. His little sister's face has been blocked out. That's his little sister in the square. This is on the far left. You can see Rob M, which is one of his managers, but over David's left shoulder. So on your, when you're looking at it, it'll be on his right shoulder, but from David's perspective, it's his left shoulder. Look who's behind David. It's Josh Marshall. So David's here with his family, and Celeste, this is at the Ford Theater. I'm sorry, I keep saying the Ford Theater. The Fonda, I was watching an Abraham Lincoln documentary last night, the Fonda Theater, and Celeste was there with his brother. But she wasn't allowed in any of these photos. And I just wanted to show another picture of Josh Marshall, the manager, just to prove that photo I just showed you of him where he, because he's claimed he barely knew David. But, but he had to help his daughter grieving the loss of Celeste. So if he didn't know about Celeste and he didn't say grieving the loss of Celeste, but helped his daughter who was grieving, why would you have to help your daughter? Did she know Celeste? I guess is my question. I'm not saying she did. And that's proof that Celeste had Hello Kitty shoes, which I showed you in the video. This is David touring around the country, holding mock funerals with an adolescent-sized casket. These are the red shirts that may have just like a drop or two. Is that why they drove to Santa Barbara? Were they taking illicit, medications, allegedly, in my opinion, and then decided it would be a great idea to drive to Santa Barbara County to get her? Or is this just more of David? And this is David, when your card declines at the therapy and they bring in that one Hello Kitty girl you met in 2021. And Hello Kitty girl is Celeste, I believe, in my opinion. So 2021, she would have been what, 11, 12? And there's somebody trying to ask who's with her. I showed some of the lyrics. I'm getting to the blue egg picture. This is another picture proving David was with Celeste. So the grand jury would be looking at all of this. This is David with Celeste. Again, the grand jury can see all of this. These are two different, they're just side by side, but they're not together in this image. And this is David, I believe, fantasizing about what he did. And this is the blue wig photo. Okay, so some people think they can see bruising in this photo. And I'm going to, let me take the comments down for a second. Let's look. So I do see what you're saying about a cut on Neo's lip. It does look like there could be a cut on Neo's lip when you're facing this on the left side, and a little bit of bruising under the lip. Also on the left side, on his right side, but your left side. And then on David, I do see some darkness under his cheeks, but I can't say definitively that that's bruising. But if you guys want, I could take this image and I can enhance it for you for the next live stream. I would be happy to do that. But thank you for bringing that up on that. That was Master Death that brought that up. Kicking It says, most places you have to be 18 to get a tattoo. I thought all, but definitely here in Tennessee. I did look that up, and you are correct. In California, it is illegal to get a tattoo under the age of 18. So somebody signed off on it. Master says, I have over 10 pics of date. Would you send them to me, please? If you don't mind, I would love to be able to enhance those and go through those. Thank you so much for letting me know and for the tip. And if you wouldn't mind, let me put up my email. This is my email right here. It's tips4jessica@outlook.com. Tips, the number 4jessica@outlook.com. And I will go through those and I will enhance some of the photos to you guys. Let's go through a couple more comments. So I was putting out videos today. I'm going to probably move that. Master says the one pic with the blue wig scratches under the big glasses and got a black eye. That's what I need to get a close up of. I need to enhance those. T says, I'm so glad there's a grand jury going. Yeah. And they might be done. We don't know yet. Tex says she's just young in that blue wig. Yeah, she is. Cabling said, I heard no freezer. That's true. You're right, Cabling. There's no freezer. You know, she was not frozen when she was found. Was she ever frozen? I don't know. But that's what law enforcement has said, that she was not. Big glasses look like they're from Walmart. Yep. They do, don't they? And this was something else I thought was interesting. And Master saying that it scratches on the left side of the cheek. I'm definitely going to enhance the photos and take a look. Thank you so much for letting me know. This is, let me move myself out of the way. This, I wanted to show you this. So this is lyrics from his song. And I just, let me see. I just snipped, let me back it up a little more. There it is. Okay. So this is like, you know, when you cross the line. So it's kind of a threat. And you can see there's red string theories. Red string theory. Red strings. You've heard David talk about the red string theory, but you can see in this is just a screenshot of his video. I can't show his videos because those are his copyrighted things. But this is just, I'm using this under fair use, just a single screenshot. Red string theory. And then you can see what's hanging from the rear view mirror. It's a Christmas tree or air freshener. And again, I think that everything David did was intentional. Everything he did was significant. So I think the fact that he put the Christmas tree air freshener, which was which, you know, SF Investigates said that there was a Christmas tree air freshener in the black Tesla that wasn't there when the car was being driven on the 29th, but was there when the car was impounded. So which happened I believe September 5th, and was there when Celeste was discovered in the trunk, the front trunk of the Tesla on September 9th. So who put this Christmas tree air freshener in and where did it happen? But I believe that David absolutely put this air freshener into his music video with the red strings, that this was, again, intentional, and that this signifies what he did in the black Tesla. Everything he does has intention, in my opinion. And this photo that he posted an image of himself holding a knife, and then he posted this photo where we've got, you know, and I believe, again, this was him. Either he did it or he was foreshadowing to her, kind of like Chris Watts did with his daughter. Remember, he sent Shanann that picture of the doll with a sheet over it, over the whole doll. And he was foreshadowing what he was going to do to the girls, to Shanann. I believe that this of David holding the knife and then posting this picture right after that. Again, I think he was foreshadowing what he was going to do to Celeste, or he already did it. But probably, and then this is just black plastic right there in the house with these red shirts. So I think if you just put 1 or 2 drops I'm just trying to figure out why they went to Santa Barbara. And to me, that's the only thing that makes sense, was that he wanted to possess her literally. But some people thought he might have used a little bit of her in that red paint, and the LAPD was looking at it. But he could have just put 1 or 2 drops in. I mean, I don't know. This is alleged in my opinion. So that's speculation on that. Speculation alert on that. Kat Sear says she's talked about Frozen, but it's up in the air. Seems weird to have a solid opinion. Well, the LAPD is saying that she wasn't. And NJ says, no, a grand jury is taking place. Yeah, grand jury is impaneled, you guys. That's what the breaking news was. If you're just joining me, just back the chat up. It is really creepy and scary. What's up with the Band-Aid? Yeah, I don't know. Great question, Cabling. What was up with the Band-Aid? I don't know. And then, did you guys see this picture? Look at this. Let me just back it up. Hold on. I don't know if I talked about this the other day, but I don't know. I think I talked about it at the end. Let me see. So I think this is significant. The knife, he was holding the knife. Yeah, I don't know what's up with the Band-Aid in this photo. I don't know. But look at this picture too. Some people think he was reenacting what he did. Could just have been he thought he was cute after he did the red paint. But some people don't think that this looks like red paint. And they think that there's something else going on in this picture that was significant to David. It is scary. Cassier says he's probably pretending the internet is his own self as a detective. Yeah, I think so. It is. It's really sick. Staka says David knew his lyrics were protected by law and can't be used to incriminate him, which makes it more sick. Well, I think that it could be used as circumstantial evidence. So that in and of itself maybe wouldn't be enough, but I do think that it could come in as circumstantial evidence that he was premeditating this and dreaming about doing this and fantasizing about doing this for a long time. Shelley said, I'm sure he kept a bunch. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Michael says he thinks he's smart leaving all the clues. I think he did too. Angel says, so all of these cases go through a grand jury before proceeding. I had no idea how this works. To get an indictment, they can either do a preliminary hearing or they can go through a grand jury. And we saw this in the Brian Kohlberger case. The difference in the Brian Kohlberger case was they arrested him first and then went to a grand jury and indicted him. In this case, I think it's because David has so much money and so many resources. They are doing a grand jury first to get the indictment, and then they will do an arrest, allegedly, in my opinion. T says maybe he was covering a pimple. Yeah, it could be something benign. Maybe he just thought it looked cool. You know, Santa Barbara is biggest mystery and clue. That is the biggest mystery. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming by to spend a little bit of time with me. If you haven't subscribed, please help a girl out. Subscribe,